Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure, bonus material, the Dad Files. In looking for material to read, I found an old folder that contains every article that I ever wrote about being a dad. From the very first time we knew we were having a baby, all the way through the adult life of my daughter and now her own children. Oh, I always get letters from people who say, hey, when you preach, you talk about your children too much. Well, being a dad is one of the most awesome responsibilities and one of the greatest adventures I've ever had. I hope you'll enjoy the Dad Files. B-A-B-Y. Baby. Baby. Baby? Yes. A small, totally dependent, wriggling, squirming, crying, wedding tax-deductible offspring unit. A child. A little bitty person. The little nurse in the white uniform had just informed me that one was coming to my house. A mild bit of hysteria ran through me. Oh, sure. They don't break. Or they don't bounce either. What if we made this decision too hastily? What if I'm not ready to be a parent? Unless something unforeseen happens, I'm a parent. I can be a good one or a bad one, but I'm going to be a parent. And now I have to do everything I can to be the best at it that I can be. You may or may not share this awesome sense of responsibility. It is a scary thought to be in charge of a new soul's life and development. I am as scared as I am happy. God is going to send another life into the world, and we, Jackie and I, will primarily be responsible for its destiny. God has placed us in charge of many great things. Each is just as great as the responsibility for the lives of our children. You may be married, or you may be single, you may be young, or you may be old, but we all share the same task of stewardship, the things God has put us in charge of. God has blessed us with a nation. How it looks in the next few years is up to us. God has put us in charge of His church, His body here on earth. How it looks in the next few years is up to us. How pure will we keep the church? How strong will we keep our nation? What decisions will we make for its future? And when we die, will the church and the countries and our children be or have strong enough leaders to carry on? We are responsible for our own influence. Each of us has one. Influence is more subtle than a shadow and stronger than atomic energy. We use it every day for good or for ill. The way we talk about others is heard by our children, by our neighbors, by our coworkers. And the congruency of what we claim to be and how they hear us talk about others rings a bell with our influence. God has given us each a circle of influence. I like to call it significant obscurity. We either use that ring of influence as a ring of light to draw people to God, or as a tightening snare to drag people to the devil. I hope and pray that I'll be a good dad. If not, then that precious little boy or little girl who is coming to live in my house might not ever have a chance to live in God's house. This is the summer of 1989. I was 26 years old. My wife has been pretty sick the last couple of months. Every morning, every evening, just like clockwork. Good morning, dear. Good morning. What would you like for breakfast? It really doesn't matter how I respond. Her response is always, yum, that sounds good. We sit down, we eat, She drops her eyes and pooches out her lips. Maybe that wasn't such a good idea. And off to the other room. Dr. Belmont and friends have told us that the reason for all this is the little visitor who will one day be a resident in our house. Now, I believe the good doctors. I talked to my wife's abdomen. I've cleaned out a room, my cartooning room, to make a nursery. I've had biology. I know a few things about babies and where they come from. Yet with all this knowledge, I find myself in the middle of great changes. And I find myself wondering, is there really a baby? I don't ask that anymore. Last Tuesday, I heard the most wonderful sound. I'll never forget it. It sounded like a little horse galloping at full speed. It was the sound of a tiny locomotive running around a curve. 160 times a minute. I just stood there with my mouth open and my eyes wide, and the nurse looked at me like she was thinking, "You idiot, haven't you ever heard a baby's heartbeat before?" As a matter of fact, I haven't, and I won't ever forget it. We sing songs in church that declare God. The writers of the Bible have stated that you can look at our world and realize that God exists. You can see the things that are visible and understand the evidence of the invisible. The psalmist declares that God can be seen in the creation. I've seen a lot of beauty that reinforced my belief in God. I've had my prayers answered and my faith was strengthened. I've never heard anything like I heard last Tuesday that made me marvel so much at the wisdom and power of God who set it all in order. I'm sure my fascination will pass. But in the meantime, you want to know how I know that man was created and did not just evolve? My answer is not scientifically profound. It's just hard to deny. Just listen to the heartbeat. The phone was ringing. This was way before cell phones. Hello? Is this Mr. Lonnie? Yes. Mr. Lonnie, has that baby come to your house yet? It was 10 o'clock or later. The phone rang and startled me out of a light sleep. We'd just returned from a 2-day retreat. I knew the voice, but I couldn't place it. My mama says if you get Miss Jackie out and walk her around the neighborhood, that baby would come. Is this Trampus? Yes, Mr. Lonnie, do you remember me? I'm not sure I'm supposed to be asking you, but I think everybody around here would like to know about that baby. Trampus. Yeah, you heard it right. Is a 6-year-old boy from Coffeyville, Mississippi. He's a little fireball and his 2 front teeth are missing. He called me long distance and was worried, or at least inquiring about the baby. Trampus Augustus Turner is quite a little character. He won my heart while I was in Coffeyville, Mississippi, doing a 5-day series of preaching. I thought it was nice and cute that he was calling and asking about a situation which he understood so little about. He was just repeating the phrases he'd heard grown-ups use. I'd spent a week in Coffeyville, Mississippi in early August, and my wife was due to deliver our baby sometime in August. As a young father-to-be, several hours away from home, I had mentioned several times that if there was a phone call, I was going to discontinue the meeting. So here Trampus was, hearing the adults talk about, did that baby come yet? Calling me on his own recognizance and asking about the baby's arrival. I wonder how much we really understand about God and his kingdom. It seems like we reduce Christian living to a simple formula like walking around the neighborhood to make the baby get here. I wonder if God is amused at our little grasp and limited grasp of the process of grace. I wonder if God is ever tickled at my questions that I ask concerning our spiritual nature and its responsibilities. Maybe God looks at us like we view Trampus and his questions concerning the birth process. Perhaps God is amused that we handle the concept of love and forgiveness and salvation with such ease. Perhaps not. You can't reduce birth to walking around the block. And we can't reduce salvation to 5 steps or a prayer. It involves those steps and a whole lot more. I hope God gives us the grace and the wisdom and the mercy to understand what becoming a Christian entails. And I hope we understand that it's a process just like becoming a parent. Some things we really won't know till they happen. When I was a little boy, a young minister moved to our town. He had a charming wife and 3 adorable daughters. We fell in love with Brother Jack Zorn and his family. Over the years, I have become especially fond of his daughter Rhonda and her husband Halo. Halo and Rhonda are the caretakers of Brother Zorn as he has gotten into his advanced years. Brother Zorn listens to my podcast, and he wanted to sponsor a segment of our podcast. I was more than honored that this kind, very influential gentleman would be involved in anything that I'm doing. Brother Zorn is the person who originated a program called Lads to Leaders. It is a program that is instrumental in influencing thousands of lives of young men and women of the Christian faith. This is the ad that Brother Zorn sent to sponsor my podcast. I am humbled and honored to read these words from my great friend, Dr. Jack Zorn. And I quote, "I am honored to sponsor one of the files for this program. I have admired the Jones family many decades and claim them as some of my dearest friends. Lonnie comes from a great family. His parents and Gerald are significant in my heart as well. Visiting his parents in Oxford 2 years ago may have been my last fellowship visit in the home of brethren, a fond memory that involved homemade ice cream. Lonnie has had a unique gift from grade school till now. One of his most special gifts is truly allowing God to use him any way, every day, everywhere, in every way. As blindness and old age overtakes me, it is delightful listening to him as he takes me on his life's journeys. I love Lonnie deeply and support his adventures with my heart and soul. Thank you, Lonnie, for your leadership and what you mean to all who know you. I love you, Lonnie. Thank you for loving me back. Your dear friend, Jack." Brother Zorn, we all love you, and I'm so honored and proud to have you as a mentor and a friend in my life. Brother Jack Zorn and the Lads to Leaders program is a proud sponsor, and we are proud that they sponsor Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.